Player Profiler faithful. It's Matty Kiwoom. Welcome to the latest episode of The Game Plan. It has been an absolutely chaotic week in the NFL. Players changing teams like it's going out of style. I don't know what to make of it. There's so much going on. So in today's episode, I brought on an expert. I brought on somebody who can help me get into the weeds and make sense of all the shenanigans and buffoonery that is happening so far in the first stages of the NFL offseason. So I cannot wait to get it going. So people, ladies, gentlemen, children of all ages, get out your pens, get out your pads, and let's start game planning to make sense of this crazy NFL free agent period. My guest today is one of the best ball players you will ever find, but I brought him in today not necessarily to talk all about best ball, but to talk about the free agent frenzy that's going on in the NFL. You may know him from being the host of Stack Hunters here at the Player Profiler network of shows, but you may not know this. He is the news desk director, and they just had their 500th post. 500 posts. That's how busy these guys are going. So without further ado, let me introduce my man, Bradley Stalder. What's up, Bradley?
Matty, it's great to be back on the game plan. I'm so excited to be diving into free agency, talking best ball, and all the things. It's I must not have screwed up too badly the last couple of times I've been on that you invited me back again. So I'm grateful. Thanks for the intro, and I'm so stoked for the news desk. I just want to say these guys have been crushing it all off season and even during the season, like to get to 500 posts. And shout out to Leo. He was the one who got the 500th post, but it's impossible to get to 500 without 499 other ones.
That's right.
Really shout out to the news desk team. As I said, they've been crushing it. We've had guys come in and out, but there have been some real staples. So I'll give them a shout out here in just a few minutes, but we'll keep going. Matty.
Yeah. So the news desk, we can get that if you join the Player Profiler Discord. So playerprofiler.com/chat. You can get to the Discord or the blurbs that you see on the website. That's all all kind of works through Bradley, and Bradley and his team have been absolutely killing it. I was telling him before we hit the record button that of all the channels on our Discord, the one that I have to check when I see the one that I see pop up on my phone, if it's the news desk, I got to see what's going on because these guys are, putting out the info to the Discord, getting posts ready to go for YouTube, for Shorts, for TikTok, all our social medias. They're absolutely killing it. Unbelievable. There's nothing like it in the fantasy space. Nothing like it, what you guys do. So big shout out to you and your team. But I had to have you on because there's been a move or two this past week, huh?
Just one or two?
I think only it's like a couple of moves, I believe, right?
I don't know how people are able to keep track of these things like one person. The reality is it's such a team effort to be able to get all of these moves in. Mm-hmm. So I do want to give a shout out to a few guys, if that's all right, Matty.
Of course.
I want to give a shout out, of course, to Leo, of course, for our 500th article. Tuma, of course. So Tuma is one of the guys who helps navigate that Discord and get some content out. He's on the Player Profiler staff as a news desk analyst as well. Same thing with Brendan Booth. He's been crushing it. Tyler, PPR Tyler, Tyler Knievel, he's been getting Dynasty videos out. Oh my gosh. Same with Emerson Beery. He's been getting Dynasty videos out and writing articles. Emerson's been crushing it. Jack Kavanaugh's been getting videos out for us, and he hosts Player Profiler Today. And if you guys haven't subscribed to the Player Profiler News YouTube channel, that happens every day. As Player Profiler Today is the flagship show on the news Player Profiler News YouTube channel. So check that out. It happens every day. Jack does it 3 times a week. I'm on there once a week. We've got a few other hosts as well. So make sure you guys are subscribing there. Let's see. Aiden, our intern, is on the news desk team. Mike Lindbergh, shout out to him. He's been crushing it with video content. Mm-hmm. Tyler Kicklighter, Jake Lewis, Jeremiah Retzlaff has been crushing it as of late. Absolutely big shout out to him. John, Ryan, Zach, Lonze, all of them have been crushing it. So like we've got a whole team that has been working together. It has been like I'm news desk director. I feel like a composer up there. Like I am not a musician. I think I've written one article, one news blurb out of the 500, but I feel like the conductor and all of the other wonderful, awesome content creators are the musicians, and they all play these, metaphorical instruments so that we can hear the news and get great analysis, videos, content, written content. And if you guys haven't checked out playerprofiler.com/news, that's just a whole feed of the news team. Like bookmark that on your phones, bookmark it on your desktops, playerprofiler.com/news. So there's a lot of awesome things, Matty, that the news desk team has been working on. And I'm honored to be the conductor, the director here for Player Profiler News.
Big, massive shout out to the news desk, and also big shout out to those guys because, this is just their foot in the door. We'll probably start seeing them pop up on videos, and the ones that are on videos, we'll start seeing them pop up on shows, and the ones that get on the shows will start having their own shows. So this is just the way to get started in the content game, and they're killing it. Can't wait to see what you guys all keep cooking up, and you're keeping your boy busy. My wife's like, "What's on your phone?" I'm like, "Babe, it's the Player Profiler News Desk. What do you want me to do? Keenan Allen was just traded. I need to know about this."
Yeah, and the great thing is that if you go to the Discord like you talked about, not only do you get to see those notifications pop up, but you also get to see the internal discussion that happens, because sometimes it's just rumors. Sometimes, and that's the big thing about the news desk, is we need to discern what is rumors, what is newsworthy. And typically my litmus test is if it's based in fact, or if someone is saying something in terms of a quote, we have a quote or a fact, and it changes our opinion about a player, that's news.
Right. Absolute news. And it's great. And, a lot of people that might be new to the news desk sees, well, yeah, I mean, it just hits Twitter. No, these guys were sifting through it before the tampering period. You guys were discerning the information that was coming out before anyone signed. So that's the tough stuff. And when you want to see how the sausage is made, head over to the Discord, because you're right. That discussion, I would see someone post and I'm about to tweet something, but then I see Bradley popping, go, whoa. This guy's led us down the bad path before, and let's wait till we can confirm that. And I go, okay, all right, I'm not going to fall for it either. So it's awesome to see. Congratulations to you guys on 500 posts to 10,000 more. Bradley, you guys are killing it. But we got to talk free agency. We got to talk about the market values of these players now that they've changed teams, because it's crazy that no one is re-signing. No one is keeping – it's like the Colts kept all their players and everyone else left on every other team and went to different pastures. So the first question that I want to ask you, and, we're going to obviously relay all of this to fantasy football, is what player saw his value rise the most after signing his new contract?
I would say two players. I couldn't pick between, so you're going to get both of them. The first is Derrick Henry. He was in free agency limbo. There was a lot of chatter during the end of the end of the season and right at the beginning of free agency. Oh, it would make sense if he landed on Baltimore. Oh, it would be great if he landed on Baltimore. But there was nothing concrete until about a week ago or so, where there was chatter about mutual interest. Josina Anderson was reporting that there was mutual interest between Derrick Henry and the Baltimore Ravens, and it fit pretty well because during the combine, the coaches came out and said, like, look, there's one healthy running back on our squad, and he's the unsung hero from last year. It's Justice Hill. Like J.K. Dobbins, we're not sure about. Keaton Mitchell, we're not sure about. The rest of the running back room is uncertain. And so that was clear to us. Like, that's news in terms of Justice Hill and Keaton Mitchell, that they were looking for a running back to fill that RB1 spot. And Derrick Henry had already said his goodbyes to Tennessee, but Henry has jumped precipitously since the end of January in terms of ADP. He was running back 17. Now he's running back 11. You're not getting any more discounts off of the big dog, who's built differently. Like, yes, he's almost 30 years old and on his third contract, but that doesn't matter for a man built like the big dog. So he's a player that his value is increased because of the clarity we received in the free agency market and the clear pathway for fantasy success, the Baltimore Ravens are not going to be running Lamar Jackson at the goal line. They did not do it last year. They have no desire to continue to do it. They want to keep him healthy. That's one of the flaws they found in their game plan for the previous seasons, was they were finding Lamar was getting injured near the end of the year because he was running it in inopportune times. So that's why in 2023, it was Gus Edwards and Justice Hill getting goal line work and not Lamar Jackson. So while we like Lamar, I don't think that, quarterback 1 overall, as long as Josh Allen is out there, I don't think that's in the range of outcomes for Lamar Jackson, given the lack of goal line. And now you've got the big dog, Derrick Henry, who's set and forget it, double-digit touchdowns every year. So Derrick Henry saw his value jump, and then the other is Gus Edwards. We'll stay with the Harbaugh coaches. Yes, Gus Edwards jumping from 52.
What's up, brother?
Woo! Gus Edwards jumping from RB 52 to RB 44 already in the underdog streets, and I think that the Chargers are poised to take another running back in the draft. I'm sure you and Cody have talked about that plenty, but Gus Edwards is the perfect between the tackles grinder type who will fit the Harbaugh offense in LA. And I think that Gus Edwards is 7-8 touchdowns and can still pay off RB 44, but that continues to rise. And I think will continue to rise until we get to draft day when the Chargers take a running back.
Even so, I think the Gus Edwards signing, what it does for that team specifically is allows Harbaugh to get a little bit flexible with who he drafts. He could go with a Bucky Irving, someone that has more of a receiving skill set, a Dylan Lobby late, because now he has his early down grinder. Last year, Gus Edwards had 13 rushing touchdowns. Over a 5-game span, he had 1, 3, 2, 1, 2. The dude put the ball in the end zone. He can do that for the Chargers, but more specifically, Derrick Henry absolutely has 15 touchdown upside in this offense. I mean, with his ability, he of course is starting to slow down a bit, but not enough where he's not a threat to bust out a 40, 50, 60 yarder. So Derrick Henry and the Ravens absolutely see that rise. Really makes a ton of sense. And unlike the Chargers, I doubt that they go with any type of sparkly new toy in the draft that diminishes his value. So that's going to be big. Get your discount on Derrick Henry while it still can, if you even can get any type of discount. So now we ask the positives, but here at the game plan, we always have to talk about the negatives because there are 2 sides, if not more, to every hill. So did anyone's dynasty value absolutely tank after a particular free agent signing?
The player profiler faithful are going to be devastated by what I'm about to say. Roschon Johnson is dead. He is dead on arrival. It's unfortunate. I'm sorry, player profiler faithful. Roschon's done. Roschon he is liked by the coaching staff. He's going to be a solid special teams guy, a breather back, a complimentary piece. But with Khalil Herbert still there and DeAndre Swift being signed to a massive deal, Roschon is nothing more than a complimentary piece at this time. Your early second round selections of him in your rookie drafts last year, not looking too hot. It's devastating. It really hurts your soul because there were some good things about Roschon and the player profiler team was pumping him up and building him up, and he has a solid skill set, but it's not what the Bears wanted to carry the load. And we should have sold him at the end of his rookie year. If they wanted to, they would. It's kind of like, the girls on the TikTok, coming at their boyfriends, if they wanted to, he would. Right. And the type of thing that happens with Roschon is with the Chicago coaching staff. If they wanted to, they would have given him the full load in the second half of the season, but they didn't. Khalil Herbert was still very good last year, and it gave them no reason to move over to Roschon, at least enough to get Khalil Herbert out. And now the coaching staff is speaking very loudly with this signing of DeAndre Swift. And so I'm really concerned for Roschon. Unfortunately, he's probably stuck as a RB4 on your dynasty rosters, and there's not a lot of hope at this point. I mean, the only pathway is get rid of Khalil Herbert, and then he's the running back 2 on the team. Okay, sure.
Man, it bums me out to say, but I think you're absolutely right. As a matter of fact, I made a statement during the season where I thought his value was dead because of the usage patterns and the reluctance to kind of give him a chance at being a bell cow in any capacity.
Yep.
Throughout 2023, this just makes it worse. They signed DeAndre Swift. DeAndre Swift got, you could call it's the second most lucrative contract of these running backs behind Saquon. He was the first one off the board. So you can make the assumption that he was target number 1 for the Bears.
Yes.
And you can't tell me that if you got something on your roster that you have faith in, that you still do after you've run out to bring someone in from the outside. Someone that you've seen closely when he was in Detroit. So I do not think it's good for Roschon Johnson. Matter of fact, if you can get a 3rd, 4th, I'm taking it at this point in Dynasty. It sucks to say, but you know the saying, if he's on a 53, he's for me when it comes to running backs. But with Roschon specifically, I think you're going to need 2 injuries for him to be a reliable starter because, like you mentioned, Khalil Herbert ain't going anywhere, and he just continues to prove that he deserves a role on an NFL franchise. They did not turn over the coaching staff, so there will be the same preferences, the same biases coming in for Matt Eberflus in 2024 that there were in 2023. So, yes, Roschon, as sad as it is to say, his dynasty value may be RIP. We got a few more questions to get through. And of course, with Bradley here, we're going to talk some best ball specific stuff. But before we do, let's hear from our sponsor.
This episode is brought to you by Player Profiler, the Dynasty Deluxe package. The rankings are the best in the industry. It includes strategy mode where you can say, hey, change the rankings to be win now. Oh, change the rankings to be productive struggle. There's also a draft planner to help to strategize where you should take players because the draft planner also includes ADP. There's a trade finder where we look up on My Fantasy League and we see trades that are done, including a particular player. Then there's a trade analyzer where you can plug in draft picks, players, and we assign a lifetime value to draft picks out 5 years. The best thing about our trade analyzer, it can't be gamed with volume. And there's mock draft data to see right now what's the market for player X versus player Y, including in the fall when very few mock drafts are happening. And our Dynasty guide, the Dynasty Dominator, would cost you $10 on Amazon, but you get it for free with Dynasty Deluxe, and you get our rookie guide for free, a $25 value. So you get all of that for $45. I mean, it's a great deal.
Matty Kiwoom here, joined by Bradley Stalder, the director of the news desk, and we are going through the frenzy, the fallout from NFL free agency. Is there a signing, Bradley, that the market is excited about, but you, maybe your team as well at the news desk, feel a little bit differently?
Saquon Barkley to the Philadelphia Eagles.
Spicy! I love it!
Let's go! Let's go! The market is very excited about Saquon Barkley going to the Philadelphia Eagles, and the counting stats will probably be there at the end of the year. Let's not get cute about it. The reality is Saquon is still Saquon. Problem is his efficiencies have dropped off. And so you're still going to see like the big plays, but that's been the hallmark of Saquon's career. Like 4 out of every 5 go for like 2 yards, but then his 5th rush is going to be like a 20-yard rush. And so you've got this like explosive player behind you, a pretty good offensive line, although there's been some turnover on that offensive line this offseason. Obviously highlighted by Jason Kelce retiring, but the offensive line is getting older. The tush push is something that has not been eradicated as of this recording. So we are looking at Jalen Hurts vulturing up to double-digit touchdowns at the goal line. And so the reality is Saquon doesn't have the upside of the touchdowns. He doesn't have the upside of the pass catching. I mean, you've still got Kenny Gainwell who can catch capably out of the backfield. But what made Saquon good last year was he was number 1 in opportunity share. he's not going to be number one in opportunity share in 2024. The Philadelphia Eagles are competing every year for a Super Bowl. They do not want this investment used up by the end of the year. They're going to keep him fresh. They're going to keep him available for the end of the year. And so my concern is that his ADP will creep into the back end of the first round. And even at the 1-2 turn, I was happy with Saquon at like 22, overall at 22, 24, heck, even 20. Fine. Like, I think I selected him in an early best ball draft at 20, but he's creeping into that 1-2 turn area. And I'm not in on, number one, him being able to pay that off, but two, structurally, it's really hard to get a running back in round 2 when you're drafting or the end of round 1 to pay off when it comes to how you're setting up your team structurally. So I'm not as excited as the public, and I'm probably not going to get a lot of Saquon until maybe the end of the summer.
In Dynasty, are you looking to sell if you feel like the market in your league is high on him?
Yes. I think Barkley is the perfect allow everyone else to buy high on him and just pivot to multiple pieces that you like, maybe a piece and a draft pick. That's I think the way to attack Barkley, who is on the wrong side of the age cliff, has a history of big injuries, and now joins a team that is high performing and high flying. You've got Jalen Hurts, you've got AJ Brown, you've got Dallas Goedert, Devonta Smith, the Slim Reaper. But with all of those mouths that you have to feed, Saquon is a player that I think the public wants to be a thing. And I'm going to wait until much later to get my shares of Saquon. I could easily see in best ball drafts going AJ Brown the first round, Saquon in the second, Devonta Smith or Jalen Hurts in the third, Devonta Smith in the fourth, and then Dallas Goedert like in the ninth. And you could have like
Eagles super stack.
The Eagles uber super stack. But that's now doable. But it may also be very tempting because the back end of the first round is where you're drafting AJ Brown. So you'll see like a double tap very often of, Brown and Barkley, I think. And that's going to be what's going to maintain Barkley at that spot throughout the rest of the offseason.
And I think the one thing to pull from what you're saying for dynasty purposes, as you're evaluating Barkley and the market surrounding Barkley, keep in mind the investment. Keep in mind the goal of the Philadelphia Eagles is not to win a bunch of our fantasy games. It is to hoist the Lombardi Trophy, to go deep into the playoffs. So if that means throttling back on usage, sitting him all together, they'll take that. And right now on PlayerProfiler.com, we have Barkley as our RB8. Last year, he was RB9 on a points per game basis with the insane usage that you referenced. So I'm not saying to fade Barkley, but I think that your approach is probably the most advantageous to just be cautious, keep it in the back of your mind that we may not get a 90th percentile outcome in terms of his stats. It may be lower based on the trajectory and the goals of the Eagles. So don't buy high, folks. Don't buy now. Let the market settle. Let the draft come. There's a few aspects of the offseason that could potentially pull down his value a little bit. They draft, let's call it Jalen Wright in the 4th. It's going to suppress his value a little bit. And that is when you could potentially buy a guy like Saquon. So wait, don't get too crazy. Don't buy at the top of the market. I think that's the best thing for Saquon Barkley. And yeah, I imagine that you and the news desk probably are a little different because Barkley is he has been probably the most excited signing from what we've seen so far. And now I want to ask you this. Is there a sleeper move? And we can call it a trade or a signing. Anything that's happened so far in this offseason, is there a sleeper move that the market just isn't realizing yet that could be big? Something that the game planners that are listening can listen to this and take advantage of in their leagues?
Yeah, I think there is an inappropriate reaction to the signing of Calvin Ridley. I think a lot of game plan, a lot like I'm in dynasty leagues and I've seen trades right now with Calvin Ridley, and he's being tossed as like a throw-in, as like a back end wide receiver 3 or a wide receiver 4 in this offense. And I understand the concern that people may have. I understand it, but I don't agree with it. And I think that a sleeper move is to buy low on Calvin Ridley. He's being drafted, like right now on Underdog Fantasy, he's being drafted as wide receiver 34. Ridley has never finished worse than wide receiver 27 in any season. And now you've got his specialty is down the field, right? He's got speed, 4.4 speed. He thrived in the Matt Ryan offense and thrived downfield last year with Trevor Lawrence. But the market is not responding to him being signed to, number one, this massive deal, but also the other parts of what Tennessee has done this offseason. The Tennessee Titans of 2024 are not of what they were in 2023. They are not Derrick Henry centric. They are not run by Mike Vrabel. Brian Callahan comes from Cincinnati. Cincinnati, top 8 in pace of play and pass attempts per game last year. Tennessee Titans last year were 30th. We're going to see a massive uptick in volume. We're going to see the way that the Titans have attacked this offseason with signing Tony Pollard. I know that, it tanks Tazi Spears. You were probably anticipating for my answer to question 2. Is it tanking Tazi Spears? I think that I'm still holding tight on both Tony Pollard and Tazi Spears and like back end running back too. I think that they can both coexist, but this is about all chips in on Will Levis and Calvin Ridley being discounted as what we assume is going to be the wide receiver 1B in this offense, along with DeAndre Hopkins. He can coexist with Hopkins in a much larger pie situation. And Levis was number 1 in terms of rate of deep ball attempts. And we love the air yards that he was trying to get to Hopkins. But it was Hopkins and no one else in Tennessee last year. So I think with this offense, we're going to see something completely different. I think Ridley is being discounted inappropriately for the ambiguity of Will Levis, who is being drafted quarterback 27. So attack Calvin Ridley. The Titans told us how they feel about him by the contract they signed. They had him sign, and Ridley is 2 of the last 3 years that he's played over 1,000 receiving yards. So I think that this is a guy that he signed for a contract. We got one more contract in him, probably 3 years, and I'm okay with Dynasty players buying him on the cheap, like an early 2nd round pick. I'm fine with that.
I want to put this out there because maybe some people that are listening haven't been playing fantasy as long as we have. And they may be looking at Calvin Ridley and saying to themselves, there's D-Hop there. Right. He can't produce. He was a very productive member of the Atlanta Falcons with a wide receiver that went by the name of Julio Jones, potentially the biggest freak we've seen at the position other than Calvin Johnson. He was an absolute alien. And Calvin Ridley was able to produce with that man on the field. So you can rest assured he's capable of producing with 2 receivers. But the second question, I think that brings up a lot of doubt. You mentioned his ability to throw deep. But what would you say to the fantasy gamers out there that are just worried about Will Levis and his ability to maintain multiple fantasy relevant pass catchers?
Yeah, I think the concerns are going to be alleviated by the passing volume that we're going to see. Tennessee is willing to throw the ball. Like they signed Tazi Spears they have Tazi Spears. They signed Tony Pollard to keep those guys fresh. They're they're not exactly the same player, but they've got the breakaway speed and they're able to catch the ball out of the backfield, both very capably. And the idea is that they're more weapons for this offense and less between the tackles. Like I really am asking our fantasy gamers to get out of the mindset of this is the Tennessee Titans of old. No, this is going to be a new Tennessee Titans offense that is going to look to push the ball down the field. It's going to get a lot of air yards and take advantage and build on the skill set and the tendencies of this young quarterback in Will Levis, because sure, his year at Kentucky is his final year before he went to the draft. He was dealing with a toe injury and had
horrible offensive line.
Things were not going right. But the year before that, Will Levis absolutely crushed in college. Like that is within his range of outcomes, is to play at a very high level. And so surrounding him with a future Hall of Famer in DeAndre Hopkins, a great 1B in Calvin Ridley, and then you've got Tony Pollard You've got Chigakonkwo, you've got Tazi Spears. These are weapons in this offense that are here to support it. So I'm not worried about. I mean, Will Levis at the price point of quarterback 27, like it's very low, and wide receiver 34 for Calvin Ridley right now. I'm assuming in a lot of the dynasty content, he's going to get pushed by the wayside because there are fancy new rookie toys and there's new draft picks.
Right.
Calvin Ridley is the unsexy player that it's cool to hate, but you need to be pushing back on that market sentiment. And that's why I'm in on Calvin Ridley.
They gave him $50 million guaranteed. They believe in Calvin Ridley. They want him around multiple years, and I don't think they would be all that upset to have him around for the entire 4 years, $92 million. So I'm with you there on Calvin. He's a player that I've faded in the past, but it's not because of the talent. It's more of just the market and how they were expecting him to perform. But now, if everyone's going to be down on him, I'll bet on Calvin and I'll bet on Will Levis every single day. And more importantly, I'll bet on Brian Callahan and that offense he's going to install in Tennessee. Last question I want to ask you about the dynasty portion of the free agent frenzy is, which guy after their recent move would you suggest our dynasty gamers to go buy right now? Who is the must trade or the biggest or the most important? Prioritize this trade candidate.
Prioritize the trade candidate. I would like to get Curtis Samuel on my team as a cheap wide receiver 3.
That's a good one.
He is a player that I think you can get if a dynasty manager comes to you and it's pretty much a toss up. Like you can get, if it's a close, try to get Curtis Samuel as not necessarily a throw in, but as like the value to tip the scales to like get you to make that trade. Curtis Samuel has had 4 seasons of 90 targets or more in his career. He is not yet 28, and he's played like 7 seasons.
A million years. Yeah.
He's played a million years. He's not quite 28. He's a 4.2 speed guy out of Ohio State, former 2nd round pick. So he has the talent. And now he joins as the wide receiver 2 on the Buffalo Bills. If you are tied to Josh Allen, the quarterback 1 in fantasy points per game over the last however many years, you're going to be good. And Gabe Davis is gone. Curtis Samuel is a clear upgrade, a massive upgrade over Gabe Davis because he has surer hands. He's just faster and he can win all over the formation. Right, the amount of movement that can be installed in that offense, like Joe Brady was near the league low in terms of motion, but that's probably because he only had Deontay Hardy to do motion. Right? Yeah. You get a guy like Curtis Samuel and you put a significant amount of money into a player of that pedigree, you're going to utilize his skill sets. And so I like Curtis Samuel as a player to be low-key targeting in your drafts and your dynasty startup drafts, in your trades, all of those, because in all 4 of those seasons where he had 90 or more targets, he finished no worse than wide receiver 48 in points per game. So he's giving you a really nice floor, plus some of the rushing upside. Curtis Samuel, like Deebo Samuel, can rush the ball out of the backfield.
Remember those Carolina days, man. Poaching things from Christian McCaffrey. We hated it then.
We did. And James Cook managers are also going to be pretty upset.
They're going to hate it. There's a lot. You know, that seam route that they were doing so effectively with James Cook? Well, about half of those are going to go to Curtis Samuel now, I would imagine.
Yes. And he just brings such a different skill set and a wide range of ways to win. And I think that's what the Buffalo Bills were lacking. Like Diggs was able to do what Diggs does, but Gabe Davis could only win on pretty much the go routes. Like that's it. He's just a bit, but he's not fast either. Like Gabe Davis was not super fast. Curtis Samuel brings speed that you can't teach. And we like Curtis Samuel. I like Curtis Samuel. I think you should, as a fantasy gamers, attack Curtis Samuel.
I would also let everyone listening, I want to remind them that over the past 2 seasons, if you take last year and the year before, he's averaged 10 fantasy points a game over, 16 games played, 70. He plays a lot and he has a good floor. I think that's a great call and an approach I like to take sometimes in Dynasty when making trades. I don't overtly, hey, what do you want for Curtis Samuel? Here's an offer for Curtis Samuel. You're going to set some alarms off. Oh, you just went to the Bills. Maybe I do some more research, blah, 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 blah. Go to someone, ask them for a bigger target. Hey, I want to buy your Devontae Smith. Okay, you can get into conversations. And they keep telling you, da, 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 da. Then you go, fine, whatever. I can't get him, but what about Curtis Samuel? I need a receiver. Then you ease them into the mindset of being, oh, yeah, okay, that's fine. Curtis Samuel, who cares? Or if they say, yes, I want, you can have Devontae, but I need this. You go, all right, we'll throw in Curtis Samuel. I want them both. So go ahead and don't kind of be sneaky with that, because sometimes, especially this time of the year, a lot of casuals shut it down. They kind of put football in the back of their mind. They're not checking out the news desk like they should be. They're not tuning into the game plan like they should be. And they're saying, oh, I don't care. Curtis Samuel, I never played him. I don't care. Then all of a sudden you come for him. You ask for him. They look it up on their phone. Like, oh, he went to Josh Allen. No, I'm not trading him. So you got to be sneaky sometimes. Be a little sneaky. Be very sneaky. So now, Bradley, I wanted to move on to this because if you guys been tuning into Bradley and I over the past year, you remember when I first submitted my best ball lineup to your show, you ripped it to shreds. But I did pretty well in best ball using what I learned from that ass chewing, if you will. So I had to ask some best ball specific questions. So I got 4 of them here. We can go through them here in regards to obviously the free agent chaos that we've seen. So we've talked a little bit about ADP, mostly with Derrick Henry, but Give me someone else. Who's a player that you've seen their best ball ADP skyrocket post free agency?
Yeah, the most obvious one is Drake London. London was being drafted as outside the top 24 of wide receivers in the way too early best ball streets. And now he's up to wide receiver 18. And that is a big jump just in the short amount of time. The clarity we received about Kirk Cousins and the Atlanta offense, the coaches, what they've been doing already. The GM has brought in Darnell Mooney. They trade for Rondell Moore, right? And those don't move me off of Drake London. Mm-hmm. The reality is like those are complementary pieces. Drake London is the rock that's not going to move. He is the target alpha number 1. Also, this guy is younger than some of the other wide receivers coming out of this draft class.
That's correct. Yes, that's right. That's right.
Drake London, and now he's got 2 years under his belt. And the other part that I want our listeners to keep in mind is why should we be buying in on Drake London? He's finished as wide receiver 36 each of the last 2 seasons with as disastrous of coaching and quarterback play as you could queue up. Mm-hmm. And now you've got a player who was the consensus like 101, 102. Like he did not drop out of the top 3 of your rookie dynasty picks back when he was a rookie. And now he's got Kirk Cousins in a real NFL offense with other weapons. I'm a big believer that those pieces are a rising tide lifts all boats scenario, not a takeaway from Drake London. And so you've got Bijan, Kyle Pitts, Drake London as the main staples. But the number one reason when the coaches came out, Raheem Morris came out during his press conference. They asked, tell us about this offense. What is the offense going to look like? And he started with London, Drake London. It's going to begin and end with Drake London in this Atlanta offense. So with Kirk Cousins signing, the clarity there, we want to continue to draft Drake London even with his rising ADP. That's how I'm attacking it.
Okay, that was gonna be my follow up. Is he's rising? Do you still believe in him? And clearly, you do. Which I'm with you there. I think he's someone that I've tried to throw out offers for in Dynasty. I know we're talking best ball, but in Dynasty, but before the Kirk Cousins signing. But now, I mean, you'd be a fool to move unless you're talking about big dogs type movement, right. And that we'll see that in best ball as well with the ADP. So you talked about the way too early best ball street. So you've been doing best ball drafts since the Super Bowl? Before the Super Bowl ended?
The first Dan Williamson, Theo Greminger, and I were in the first FFPC way too early 125 best ball draft that kicked off the year. It was wild. So we've been drafting since January.
Okay. So that this is why this question has a lot of weight to it. Why it makes a lot of sense, because you've been drafting since the football even ended.
Yes.
Before football ended this past year. So is there a player that you now regret drafting in a bunch of your best ball way too early leagues, given his new 2024 situation?
Oh man. So I wish I took less of this player. I still am very high on this player, but I regret the percentage of drafts. I was extremely high on him. I had him as a 10th overall player in the draft streets, in the way too early streets. And this was in light of a transaction that happened 2 days ago. DJ Moore, I had a 47% exposure to. Now, do I regret all of that? No. It did not tank. The Keenan Allen trade did not tank it, but it doesn't help it. And so the amount, I think DJ Moore is now firmly a mid-second round pick. I was drafting him at the 1-2 turn consistently because 47% exposure, you're going to draft him everywhere, right?
Absolutely right.
But my plan was it's going to be Caleb Williams throwing to DJ Moore. And I had two reasons for that. One was we saw what DJ Moore was able to do last year with Justin Fields. And my argument was, well, Caleb Williams, number one, is going to be better than Justin Fields in terms of just pure talent. But second is that the pass volume is going to be higher. So you're going to get DJ Moore not just on these big, long routes, down the field. You're also going to get him on some of the smaller PPR just accumulation. And so I had DJ Moore was wide receiver 9 in terms of best ball value rating last year. DJ Moore was wide receiver 5 in terms of rate of top 5 weeks. So I was big in on DJ Moore just being not only the safety blanket, but also the big explosive play guy. But now you've got Keenan Allen, who's now taking over that safety blanket. I still like DJ Moore in your best ball leagues, but 47% exposure is pretty high. And so
that's high, yes.
I'll have that tempered down. I didn't think that the Bears would bring in someone like that. And to get him for a 4th round pick was, I thought, a good value, because the Bears don't care about 1 year of Keenan Allen, right? They're not too worried about that. And they want to start Caleb Williams off strong. And so I still like DJ Moore, but yeah, 47% is a little bunch.
I hear you. And what the Bears did, and shout out to Ryan Poles, in my opinion, he now has the most QB friendly wide receiver duo in the league by far. Not saying they're the most talented, not saying they're the best, not saying they'll score the most fantasy points as a tandem. Just what they're able to do on an NFL field is going to allow the development of Caleb Williams to just be, chef's kiss. Very, very friendly.
Yes.
They're just two guys that can handle double-digit targets a game. They can do things over the middle. They can do intermediate routes to the outside. They can go deep, make big explosive plays. Great move by Ryan Poles, but yes. Now, DJ Moore has to be tempered a little bit. Unless, fingers crossed, the Bears decide to throw the ball amongst the tops in the league, because that would be sweet.
That would be real sweet. That would be nice.
That 47% would start singing. It would be singing, Bradley, if that happens. My next question, name a player that you'll be fading going forward now in your future best ball drafts based on either a trade or free agent signing.
Yeah, that's running back Zack Moss, the Cincinnati Bengals. I was drafting a lot of Zack Moss when he was running back 44, 46, 48, and we didn't know where he was going to land, because my thought was he's going to land somewhere. He played admirably last year for the Indianapolis Colts for a good stretch when Jonathan Taylor was out, and that's what teams want to buy into in the offseason. They want to get a guy who's relatively cheap. And so in attacking early Zack Moss at running back 44 or later, click, because landing spot, he's going to land somewhere nice. And he lands on the Cincinnati Bengals, who have a history of giving a lot of goal line work to, well, now released or traded Joe Mixon, right? We were on top of the trade/release of Joe Mixon, and the news desk was. But Zack Moss is a player, unimpressive traits. He is not a fast guy. He has no elite skill set. He is slow. He is not agile. He does not have breakaway runs. He's not known for being a pass catcher out of the backfield. Like, he has no elite skills. And so he's going to be a between the tackles guy who can catch a couple passes maybe, but not someone that I'm buying into. He's jumped today. He's wide receiver or running back 36.
Ooh, big jump.
And yeah, it's a big jump, massive multi-round jump. But that's why you want to draft those type of guys in the early best ball streets when you do. Now I'm not drafting any Zack Moss until a new tournament starts, until the settings are reset, because right now, if you're drafting Zack Moss, you're competing against guys who have drafted him running back 45 or later. You've gotten significant values and discounts. Previously you're competing against those guys. So I'm not drafting Zack Moss until we get to the summer. So avoid him if you're in the early best ball streets right now.
Where's Chase Brown going? Whereabouts is he going?
He's going at about the same spot right now. They're neck and neck.
Who would you rather have if you had to pick a Bengals running back? Who are you taking, Chase Brown or Zack Moss, if the price is relatively the same?
Chase Brown.
Yeah,
I think that Chase Brown shows just electricity. He can catch passes out of the backfield. His yards per route run among running backs last year was number one. It was like double the next closest guy, minimum qualifiers included. But Chase Brown brings the electricity, but he's not able to carry the full workload. And that's why I think Zack Moss probably a between the tackles guy, and Chase Brown more of that third down back that the Bengals were hoping Chris Evans would be.
Yep.
So,
and I think that, just going forward, trying to project what they do, I don't imagine they invest heavily in a running back at all after signing Zack Moss. With the holes on the offensive line and in their secondary, I can't imagine that they would put any type of meaningful draft pick into a running back. Maybe late, which will be fine for their depth chart, but I don't think that's really going to affect Moss or Chase Brown as we head into training camp. So the last question I'm going to ask you, and then I'll get you out of here on this wonderful Saturday. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out with Bradley and I on the game plan today. Best sleeper candidate at this point in the offseason. Give us a good sleeper for best ball.
This player is going as running back 29. So I've got like an intermediate one and I got a late one for you.
Oh, I love it. Love it.
A running back 29 in the underdog streets. He's being forgotten about, but his teammate is being drafted at that 1-2 turn. And this is Raheem Mostert. Raheem Mostert is being drafted like he fell off a cliff. And, and instead Raheem Mostert was running back 3 in best ball value rating last year. Running back 3 ahead of Devon Achane, who's going at the 1-2 turn. It's fun. It's sexy to draft Achane. Like, no hate on Achane. He deserves to be in that second round conversation. But Raheem Mostert was splitting touches with Achane, and Achane is not built to carry the load in a full-time capacity. Mostert is trusted around the goal line. He's not going to get a full complement of carries, which is fine. He's still super speedy. It fits with the Miami Dolphins, what they want to do. The worst case, the Dolphins draft a day 3 running back to maybe cycle in, but they like Salvon Ahmed there. They like a few of their guys who are there. They were not involved in free agency in terms of offense outside of Jonnu Smith. So unless you're thinking that Jonnu's going to get a couple carries out of the backfield, which, he has in the past, but he's not going to take anything away from Raheem Mostert. Mostert is the perfect RB2, 3 in your 0 RB builds. We've seen the massive upside. We know how he fits with the offense. The coaches know what he brings. They're willing to use him, and he doesn't need to carry the full workload. Like at times he did when he was at San Francisco, and that's where he got hurt. But I'm willing to take shots on this intermediate running back, Raheem Mostert. And if you want a deep cut,
Oh, yeah. Let's
Yeah,
hear it, baby.
We're here for this. You want Kyron Williams 2.0. Okay, maybe not.
Whoa. Get ready to clip it. Get ready to clip it.
Kyron Williams 2.0. If Jonathan Taylor gets injured, Evan Hull is being undrafted right now. Zack Moss is out of there. The Colts loved Hull, and they retained all of their players. We mentioned it earlier in the podcast. The Colts brought back Michael Pittman. They brought back a bunch of guys on the defensive side of the ball. Mm-hmm. Evan Hull is going to get his fair shot to carve out that RB2 role. And Jonathan Taylor is not the youngest of pups anymore. He's on his second contract. And now we're looking at, well, are they going to preserve him in some capacities? I think Evan Hull being undrafted in some best ball drafts is criminal. Be drafting Evan Hull late in your drafts.
Evan Hull, Kyron Williams 2.0, except he's actually athletic. He's got burst, speed, good 40 times, strong kid, got the size, but I love it. I love the bold take. Evan Hull, Kyron Williams 2.0. Bradley, you are the man. Thank you so much for hanging out. Thank you so much for chatting up with me here on the Game Plan this Saturday. What are you working on now? So go ahead, plug anything that you're working on right now. Let people know.
Yeah, right now, let's see. Player Profile of the Day, every Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern, on the Player Profiler News YouTube channel. Make sure you guys are subscribed to Player Profiler News. Also, go to playerprofiler.com/news, and you'll see the news feed that the News Desk team is crushing. You'll see more than 500 articles and blurbs about your favorite fantasy players, how to attack that. It's great. At 8 p.m. Eastern on Thursdays is Stack Hunters. So Thursday is Bradley's day.
Bradley night. Bradley night at Player Pro.
So you go to the Player Profiler News channel at 7. You go to the Player Profiler main channel. Dan Williamson and I have had some great guests. This past week, we had Jim Coventry. Next week, we're having Josh Larkey. The following week, John Laub. Right. We've got some great guests who have been scheduled coming up, and it's great. So Stack Hunters is the Player Profiler best ball show. Dan Williamson and I have been crushing it in that street. Dan is a great co-host. Make sure you guys are subscribed to all of the channels there. And then the other thing that I've been working on in the background, completely aside from Player Profiler, is the Fantasy Football Plus Network. And the Fantasy Football Plus Network is just a bunch of creators who are getting an opportunity to work on their skills and their content. And so, I've got this YouTube channel where I've got a few creators who are creating content, and they're growing in their skill sets, and they're growing in they're learning how to share their content and grow. So the Fantasy Football Plus Network is kind of like my baby that I've been growing and has developed over the last few years. So if you're interested in content creation and you want an opportunity to get your feet wet in how to do that and some guidance, I've been in the content streets for years and I've learned a lot. And that's part of the Fantasy Football Plus Network is you'll get some mentoring from me. You'll get feedback and you'll get an opportunity, on YouTube, on we've got Apple Podcasts, Spotify, the whole bit, and you'll be able to, get feedback from me for how to improve and get more views and get your voice out there so that you can share more about your thoughts on fantasy football and grow. So the Fantasy Football Plus Network, I'm really proud of all the things happening there too.
Oh, that's awesome. So if you are listening and you're thinking about getting in the content game, why don't you go ahead and check that out? That could be something great for your start in this industry. You can find me on X, Matty Kiwoom. Make sure you are subscribed to the Player Profiler YouTube channel and now the Player Profiler News YouTube channels. Like this video, leave a comment. Let us know what you liked, what you want. If you have a question to ask, leave it here. I'll get back to you for sure. And make sure you head over to the draftrankings.com. I'm Matty Kiwoom, joined by the great Bradley Stalder. We're out. We'll see you next time. Peace.
Hey, I want to thank you for being part of this broadcast. If you have any thoughts on it, leave a comment. If you enjoyed it, make sure you leave a like. And if you want to see more shows on the Player Profiler channel, subscribe to it. That's how we know you want more.